It gives me great pleasure to introduce our presenter this evening and a member of our lodge, Mr. Bryan Pollock. Bryan's been aware of subtle energies in their life around him since he was a small boy. He has a keen interest in the inner side of life and how we can learn to become sensitive to it. Bryan's had a long life interest in alternative health, healing, and divining for geopathic stress lines. Bryan is a quantum biofeedback practitioner and uses the latest quantum inductive biofeedback device to help many clients develop their own wellness. He's also a keen landscape photographer. He's been a member of the Theosophical Society since 1962 and has toured around New Zealand giving talks for various branches around the country. He's actively served in the Wellington and New Plymouth branches over many years. So please welcome Bryan. Thank you for your talk this evening, which is Invisible Helpers and Lightworkers. Bryan, over to you. Thank you.
Invisible helpers and light workers. Next. Changing mine. That's right. What is an invisible helper or light worker, and how do they operate? Next. An individual that works as part of a human and Deva team to help others in need while in the astral or light body. Next. A light worker is guided by the Devas to where the work is needed and where we are best able to assist. By working as smaller teams, light workers are able to spread their expertise to those needing assistance. Next. 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 Being in bed asleep before 10 p.m. Next one. Being in bed asleep before 10 p.m, ready to travel to wherever is needed to help others in need. There's the mouse that's on the way there too. Okay. We are guided as a group by our human leader, who rotates the leader role every few months to share the workload. The leader is directed by the Deva in charge to where the work of the evening is required. Next. Hang on, I missed one there. Can we go back? Yeah. No, keep going back.
That's the one.
Yeah, and there should be a next one there. Hit the.
Oh,
that.
there it is, the video.
Yeah. Yeah. So the person in charge of the group at night rallies all the people who are sort of working in that group and then directs them where they're going for that evening's work. And she is directed by the Deva in charge of that group for the work for the evening. Thanks, Shushma. It could be an event or accident of any type, but generally involves a larger group of people that are still alive or have died in the crash. Next, the video. Yeah.
Sorry, we are not seeing the stringing of Bryan.
What's not seeing what, Ganesh?
No, we don't see Bryan's stringing. We are seeing only the Lord one start recording, introduce speaker. That is slide only. That is only thing displayed.
Okay, thanks. I'll have to look into this. Sorry about this. Okay, start.
Invisible helpers and light workers. Next. What is an invisible helper or light worker?
Mhm.
It's all just flying through the screen, but that's all right. You're just trying to catch up.
Mhm. Being in bed asleep before 10 p.m. You could start. from here.
We are guided as a group by a human leader who rotates the leader role every few months to share the workload. The leader is directed by the data in charge to where the work for the evening is required. But
Sorry. There's lots of videos in the thing.
the leader of the group's job is to get those who are there to work for that evening and direct them where the work is to be done and travel together to that spot. Next.
So is this the angel who's in charge of the leader or helps the leader?
No, it's just an image.
But they're not actually in work.
It could be an event or accident of any type, but generally involves a larger group of people that are still alive or have died in a crash. So the video.
This one's not playing, it says cannot play media. Sorry. Just have to go to it.
Some examples, it's just flying through them.
Mhm.
You can't control it.
Oh, no, I can't. Playing crash?
Some examples of where light workers help may be sought is a plane crash, boat capsizes with refugees seeking freedom elsewhere, bush and large-scale fires, tsunamis, mountain eruptions, earthquakes, nuclear disasters, train or bus crashes, hurricanes and tornadoes, flooding and possible drownings. So this is an example of the boats that we've all seen on the news. This one here has around about 120 people on the upper deck, coming from one side of the Mediterranean to the other, and there's about another 250 people on board of this ship. So you can understand when these capsize and people are in the water, the panic stations take place. A few of those you can see there may have life jackets, but the majority don't, and none are provided to the others on board. Next. Or train crashes. We've seen some earlier on in the year, a terrific one in India, but there's often several happening through each year. Next. Drownings. Next. Or in the war zone, where there's bullets and missiles and things flying around people, and people that are injured or killed that need help. And fires, we saw recently over in Hawaii, the huge fires there that took over and consumed homes, as well as the forest fires that have been continuing right through the year in different countries. Nuclear disasters. Gladly, there haven't been any more of those since Fukushima. And also being able to be out in amongst wild animals or objects such as animals such as snakes that some people have terrific fears of. You need to be able to overcome those fears to be able to be a light worker on the other side. Or in this case, our little 8-legged furry friends, the spiders. Some people sort of jump up and down and go flying around the room when they see these things, particularly the larger ones like these tarantulas. Recently, you probably saw the floods in Florida, had the crocodiles coming down the streets, and it made it very difficult for people that were trying to get in there and help others having to take a risk knowing that they were out there as well. So Can we just have that up a little bit, Shoshana? So assessing a situation when an accident happens quickly and helping those that could survive if they have the help and guidance needed. So this one here is showing people who are starting to float up and move to the light, which I'm sure most of you have heard the process of what happens. And sometimes some of those people are directed back because their time's not ready, because they can be saved when the help is there. Next one. When you're not overtaken by fear in any of these situations, next, would you, if you were placed in any of those situations, would you still happily volunteer in these situations each night? Next. Volunteer light workers are always welcome. Before going to sleep at night, volunteer your services on the other side to help others in need, and you will be shown a group you could work with. A mentor will work with you until you are confident in the processes. Skills a group of light workers need between them. They need to be able to work with and relate to different groups of people. For example, children, the elderly, women who may have been raped and need the help of another female. Be understanding of the situation and not discriminate based on race, creed, sex, or colour. And be able to offer assistance in a variety of situations without fear of your own life form, of your own life, from wildfires in the fire where it's rapidly moving towards you, water where people are drowning, maybe in shark or crocodile infested waters, in war zones where there are mines, bullets firing around you, or missiles that could arrive at any moment, buildings that may have fallen or could fall around you in fires, in nuclear disasters where there is possible radiation, insects, spiders, ants, snakes, or animals that could harm, small or confined spaces underground in damaged buildings. So who could possibly want to volunteer in these situations when you could be happily dreaming on the astral plane, enjoying all what life has to offer? Next. And if you say, I do, next. Where have you said that before?
I don't really.
So this one here shows an image of a horse flying. And you might ask, well, we can just play the video too, Shushma. And this is what one of our members in the group goes on at night. And it's very useful in approaching young children, particularly, you know, if it may be mothers with a child that's both been killed or injured. It gives them something extra rather than seeing a person and a horse, and something that's a little bit more attractive for them to be able to deal, for the helper to be able to deal with the children and the mother in need. Next. And can you play the video with us? So this is an example of a mother and child that have been hit and killed during the war. And so, you know, you can see the little boy there looking up as though, you know, looking up at the horse and the helper who have come to offer assistance, and being quite confused. But the horse that is being ridden just helps lessen that anxiety. Next one. So, and we'll just play the video too with it. So at the end of the night, it's a matter of returning to the body. And sometimes you'll find you'll be woken up in the middle of the night, sometimes affected by what's been going on. And if you've seen the earthquake in Morocco, you'll know that it's a little bit different earthquake in the fact that the buildings that have come down are much more sandier and smaller gravel rather than big buildings and slabs that have came down in the Turkish earthquake, where there's room for people to hide under. In these situations where you're out helping and it's in a dusty condition, your job is to get in the rubble. Of course, you're in your astral or light body, you're not in your physical body, but it's still in a very dusty, dirty conditions. And when you're in those situations, can be very difficult not to feel as though you're sucking in that dust that you're in amongst. And sometimes you're there to, just comfort those people who are dying, or if they're able to survive, comforting them until they're rescued. So that's the presentation. It was a very short one, but I'm happy to answer the questions. And
okay, so anyone from the lodge, you can go online.
Chris has a hand. Chris, after anyone in the lodge. Anyone has questions for you? Okay, Chris, you're good.
yes, certainly.
You know you've been on the mission of God.
Not always. I, probably remember about 50% of the time where I've been, but some of the members in the group don't remember at all, but they'll, might wake up with certain experiences that they can't explain of how they feel in the morning. And when, they ask where we were working last night and I can remember and tell them, they say, well, that, explains a little bit of, how they're feeling and what's happened the night before.
So I have to repeat the question for
All right.
Okay.
Maybe you start like if you're quite frightened, if you're frightened, so what are you perceiving?
Do you often feel frightened or affected by what's going on at the time? It just depends on, where you are, but you're looking after a person who, may still be alive. And when you're doing that, it's very easy to feel the same yourself, that you're alive in that situation, helping them. But it's, just being aware that you yourself can't be affected by that. But at the same time, you're still trying to look after the safety of the person involved. We take the case of, Florida, where it was flooded and there were crocodiles in the water. They can't affect you, but they may affect the person that you're with and trying to help.
So just following on from that, how do you normally when you think about these sort of things, you think about more on the physical form, where you chase the crocodile away, or the big sandy episodes, sort of taking on very person, for example. So how do you actually help people on from the astral perspective?
So how do you help people from the astral perspective? Well, I'm just trying to rethink of what I was going to say. It's what you've got to remember is, like when there's an earthquake, that there's other people in their physical bodies that are there helping rescue the physical event. Your job as a light worker or astral helper is to assist them and sort of be with them when no one else can perhaps get to them at that time. We've seen in the Turkish earthquakes that there were people that survived, I think it was about 21 days, and they wouldn't have been able to make it without other helpers being with them and comforting them during that time. Yes, helping them at the astral level.
Maybe when they're asleep.
Yeah, but like in the Moroccan earthquake, it's very dusty. One of the things you'd like to be able to support to those people is being able to give them a drink. And that's what, people are feeling when they wake up, that, they're very thirsty and dry because of the situation they've been in. And that's just something that's, you take on those characteristics of, how the people you're helping feel on the other side. Does that explain a little bit? Yes?
We need to take good one online.
Experiences, but I'm not always consciously aware. But I relate to those instances I was seeing, like even New York, the Twin Towers, and then there were others. And what's happened is I've become very aware that during the time that this lasts, like quite often months, is that I'll be doing something very pedantic and I'll be kept very busy doing something quite specific. Not stressful, but a repetitive thing, and I'll be busy. And I've noted it so many times that it's just that I know whatever I do, whatever happens, that that's what goes on. The thing that's going on somewhere. And I'm over here that I'm doing this, and I just know that at the time. So I've been aware, but it's a whole other story.
The important thing to remember is it doesn't matter if you wake up not knowing what you've done that night. There's always work to be done. Sometimes there may be work that people do during the day, and it just depends on the job that person's got. If it's something they could leave their body and help with as well as carrying on here, they can do it, but it very rarely happens. Most of it's at night time and another group takes over as it rotates around. Yeah.
You can ask a question first.
Oh, sorry, Chris. Ask your question, please.
Yes, thank you. Bryan, I'm interested in that timeline. What the significance of suggesting that you go to bed before sleep? Before 10 o'clock. You go to sleep before 10 o'clock.
Well, that's been one of the things all around the world in different countries, is that if you've got a group that are going to be consistently working at night and helping others, you can't have people, turning up at 9:30, 10 o'clock. Some people don't go to bed till 11 or 1 in the morning, in which case, they're not able to carry on and help. The group needs to be able to, work as a group and get to rely on each other's abilities. Like some are able to work with children, some with the elderly, some with women. And, as we mentioned before, women who have been raped, the last thing they want is a male helper to help them on the other side, whether they are still alive or whether they've passed over. So it's important, to try and be in bed at 9:30 at night. So by 10 o'clock, you're asleep and able to help. It doesn't mean to say you've got to be there every night, but, just let them know if you've been working with a group that you won't be there for a particular reason the next night coming up, or, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Bryan.
Yeah.
You can take a vacation if you want to.
Yeah, well, you need to sometimes.
It's really you're flying from one country
Yeah.
to another.
So, Bill, you had a question before.
Oh, hang on.
Yes, Brian. I was just casting my mind back to that important book, Through the Curtain, and in there, if I remember correctly, the sometimes adepts and high initiates also take a supervisory role. Is that your experience as well?
I haven't been aware of that, but I guess in circumstances that could happen. It depends on, what the events are, who's been injured, and
Yes.
yeah. Yes.
in person, whether it's, you know, rescue someone or doing around and save the family or something like that in person.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Have you ever been around a dangerous situation where there's a dangerous animal or something in its place? Yes, there's been.
In person.
Yes, there's been instances over in Alaska where there's been, bear attacks where we've rescued or been with people to help guide them, where to go to get to safety. And it's just like them using they just feel it's their intuition, but it's well, you do have fear at times, yes. Adrenaline kicks in whether you're on the physical or the astral plane. You might not, have your adrenal glands pushing cortisol through, but I'm sure you still react. And sometimes that's when people wake up in bed and, thank God that was just a dream, but it wasn't a dream. It was just that you were helping, and it gave you such a shock that you woke up. And that's the general reaction. It's like if you're out somewhere helping someone and, there's bullets going through and you feel as though you've been shot. Well, once you have that feeling, well, it is like being shot, and it will wake you up. Yes.
Can you have a look at the chat? So she's some questions. Okay, all right. Nothing there.
No.
Anyone else online got any comments or thoughts?
One there.
Chris is back again. Chris, yep.
I'm back again. Bryan, if you were comforting someone who passed over and they're confused and maybe frightened because they don't understand what's happening, would you still be able, I mean, you're not existing in the astral as such because you've just come over from the physical, would you still be able to help them to deal with their confusion and fear?
Well, definitely. That's where you are. You're there in your astral body, and if they've passed over, they'll be in their astral body. And some people in cultures understand what happens after death, and others think, well, when you die, and that's the end of it. But everybody finds out, when they do pass over, that, wow, I'm still alive. I'm free in my body. Isn't it great? And we all hang on here for, to make it look as though, well, we must survive here at no cost. Whereas, I'm not saying we should be letting ourselves go, but it's really nice on the other side too. But yeah.
I remember Bernice, she was saying, I could just be happily pop off at any time. And after lunch, she went and lay down, and that was it. Yeah. And off she went.
Mm.
Did that too.
Yeah.
And she was the daughter, and she died. I feel tired. Went to sleep in the conservatory, and stepped out of her body, which was a bit of a shock with the door. She came.
Ganesh, online. You had your hand up. Then I'll come to you, Lara, mate.
Just a question, Bryan, as a light worker, do you also meet people who are alive and not in danger?
He wants to know if when you're a light worker, you meet people who are alive and not in danger. Can you meet other people?
Very, very rarely. No, it's normally those that are in life or death situations. So you can get people that, in the case of that boat that we saw earlier on that may have tipped off and gone into the sea, they're struggling for their life. They're not dead yet, but it's trying to comfort those and give them hope so they're not panicking so much and can stay afloat until rescue arrives. So that's really the only situation. It's not out there going to visit your friends and saying hi. That's what you do normally in your sleep, should you wish to.
So if you're not working, it's a work.
Yes, it's a work.
Friends.
Well, Yes, it's work.
Okay, Lara May.
Hi, Brian.
Hi
Good
there.
to see you. Just two comments there. So I guess that's happening where family aren't available to help that person too, and send them back to this world. I
Yes.
just think, yeah. So you could have your family there that may help you and say, go back. Or if there's no one available, a light worker can be available.
Well, in most of these situations, the family, like in an earthquake, may be outside the building, know their family members are possibly somewhere underneath the rubble, but have got no idea where, until, you know, they may be located by tracker dogs or sounds or things that are coming out from underneath.
Sorry, I was meaning like a dead relative.
What? Death of a relative?
A dead one. A dead person, a dead relative, I'm meaning.
Yes.
So is there an order of, like, if a dead relative can't help them, then the light workers help?
Yes, generally, yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing I've always wondered about, Brian, is like, how do you purify yourself? Or what do you go in? Do you go in with a prayer to keep yourself safe, so you don't bring all the energy or stuff back with you, and because you may not realize what's happening to the vibrations of your own body? Is there some sort of protection thing that you say, or action that you do, or
No,
before you go to bed, or
there's
or
not.
when you wake up, cleansing thing?
Yeah, the Deva that guides the group virtually takes control of all that and makes sure there's no sort of harm that comes to them on the astral plane while they're doing the work. But, you know, it does quite often happen that when you come back that you may feel tired and worn out if you take things on personally. But, you know, if it's done properly, you shouldn't feel any loss of energy from the night's work. You'll just wake up in the morning feeling, you know, great. You know, get up and you're alive and you got another day's work of a totally different type to do.
One last question, and then that's it. So the people that you're working with on the astral plane, are these people that you know in, like, in New Zealand or around the world right now, or are you able know them on the other side and met them later, or how do you all got together, or does the angel pick and choose you out of New Zealand? You know?
No, well, the group, the first thing is the people who are helping need to have an understanding of theosophical principles. So it's no good being on the other side helping people that have passed over that wonder where they are, and you say, well, you know, you're dead, because that's what you think sort of happens. You've got to have an understanding of karma, of reincarnation, and, you know, what happens after death. You know, you don't just go up to the light and you know, pass through. There's learning experiences we have to go through. You know, as we all understand, we've studied reincarnation and karma. They're, you know, it's a little bit like, you know, walking up the staircase past all these images of people that you've met in your life, and, you know, you might have said some mean things to some people, and you've got all those things to resolve. So it's the understanding of all how that works, you know, that you need to be able to explain to people. You know, they might go back into their home and their lounge and sit down in a chair, and then, you know, one of the cousins or something comes in and sits down in their seat, is what they call being sat through. And the cousin doesn't know, they can't see they're there, but it's sometimes the people on the astral plane that have died find it a little bit, you know, off-putting when someone comes and jumps in their favourite chair on top of them and doesn't say hello. Yes.
Anthea.
Actually able to give energy help to those that may be able to without drowning, in the same way that someone would if they were life saving, you know, an arm will sort of help to get them up to the top, that type of thing.
Well, you can try. Anthony was just asking, can you give them any sort of physical assistance if they're drowning to help keep them afloat? Well, the real answer to that is no, but all you can really do is get them to relax and, allow themselves to float. But one of the things you can't do on the other side, and is a, big no-no, is you can't have the person, tell you something about, their mother or their brother or something that they want you to do, to say to them when you come back about something that they have hidden from them, but want them to know about. What was that?
What is that you?
Well, you can just imagine where it'd go with everybody on the other side of, they had their secrets, which people do, I can assure you. And when they die, they have that freedom, that, letting everything go. It's a totally different feeling to holding on to everything that you hold dear to you, that's your secret and not everyone else's. And if everyone, let someone else know, or, they'd hidden some money here, it's in a jar there or somewhere, well, what would life be during the day? You'd be ringing up all these people and telling them all these different things, and think, well, is this guy feeling all right? Or yeah. Yes.
Me.
Something after these events, do people report meeting the Lightworkers, the people that have been rescued? Or?
Sorry, I didn't quite get.
So his question is, after the events have happened, have those people reported that they've been in touch with Lightworkers?
Some have, yes. Yeah.
Somebody had my daughter that she had a baby to look after.
Yeah.
Otherwise she could die in childbirth.
Yeah. There are all sorts of instances like that happen.
A few years ago, there was that girl came from Australia. She had HIV and she died in New Zealand. But on the TV show, she was talking to the Holmes guy, and she said, well, the angels are looking after me, because she was in touch with them.
I have a question. Are you sometimes there when the disaster is happening, even before it happens? Slightly, few minutes.
You are.
I have had it twice already.
Yeah.
I was in India when the Christchurch earthquake happened, and I was in it when it was happening, but I was in India.
Yeah.
And then recently I had this dream of getting off rails on a train, and then 2-3 days later I found out about the Indian rail
Crash. Yeah.
So I'm thinking, was I there when it was happening? Or just after, just the memory of the place.
Maybe, or you may be just forewarned of what's coming up if you're receptive to it.
It happened twice so far.
But-
Again, another time I dreamt of crocodiles, and it turned out that that particular place had flooded and the crocodiles, not recently, but
Yeah.
some years ago.
I asked with the aeroplane disaster thing because I saw the black coming there.
What's that?
When gold slag fell on the school, and I was back in Wales, I was at intermediate school, and I came into the house because I was sleeping in a sleep out. Said to Mum, I had this weird dream of this black stuff coming down on the school when I was there. But I was seeing my nice, long, low tone or intermediate. So I wasn't seeing much later. I saw a picture of what the other farm school looked like, and it didn't look like anything I remembered out of my dream, because the brain had stuck its own pictures on when I was coming back, but I did see the black coming down on the school. And as I mentioned this during various talks, and then I've met quite a few people. Like I would say the same thing probably happened in the Twin Towers. Lots of people remember dreams about that particular occasion. And not all of them were Theosophists or knowing that they were Lightworkers or anything like that.
Well, they don't have to be members.
June was just saying about being aware of real life events And she did one when she was a child, as you know, an island school that got covered in shale and stuff, and obviously the Twin Towers and stuff. Wales, yeah.
Lara May has another question.
Lara
Yes,
May.
Laura.
So, you have light workers for animals too?
I'm sure there are, yes.
And I was thinking too, what if you had like starting to think about these things a lot more. What say if you come with your own sort of like belief system or something like that behind you, and that would influence, like for example, if you believed in nature gods or multiple gods or things like that, and or fairy kingdom and that, would those, say someone had been working in that area as well, would they come along as well with you all as light workers, as like reinforcements, or is it just purely human?
Generally, it's just humans with the the help of the Divas, because the Divas job is to work out where the help is needed and guide the helpers that are there that night as to where their assistance is needed most. A lot of people, it's just someone to hold a hand and give some guidance. You can imagine what it's like being under a building that's like at the present time in North Africa, where they're under all this rubble and unable to see anyone for several days and not knowing they're going to be rescued.
Can you just check the chat, Sushi, if there were some questions before it came up?
No, that's just everyone saying hello to Ryan.
There's a Tibetan one there, something about ritual.
According to Tibetan ritual, including praying. Okay, Aparna has a question. What do you think of the Tibetan rituals for the dead, including praying for them for 49 days? Is that related to a better passing to the afterlife? And Arun says, according to Tibetan, you reincarnate within 39 days.
No. 49 days.
Okay, 49 days. Okay.
That's a very strange one, because that's the Tibetan teaching that you reincarnate within 49 days. And it changes your whole perspective of reincarnation, looking at, say, lives of Alcyone, which is like hundreds of years and all that, so I don't know what to make of it, but that's my understanding is the Tibetan teaching. You can look it up.
Yeah. The big thing with that, Arun, is, we've all got karmic ties and things that we have to work out with the different individuals we've been with in the past, and the likelihood of us being able to come back to the ones that we have that the karmic ties to work out is very limited in that number of days.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have to always remember the context. Everything doesn't happen at the same way each time.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the lodge?
Well, to follow on with that, Anthony and I were talking earlier about where Tesla, who obviously was highly evolved, basically came back straight away as some Irishman. An Irishman, did you say?
Oh, you're talking about Tesla.
Yeah. So then, he might be right for some people that have got no karmic debris. They can just turn it. Yeah, exactly.
Well, according to HPB, she said when you become initiated, become a disciple, you have to become an impersonal force for good, and there's no heaven world rest. You come back, and if you come back within 49 days, and you're ready to work, then that's it.
And the people from Tibet would have been like that.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that's what is the context, right? If they were highly involved or not.
Diane.
Yes, I said that's right. Do the training to be a light worker, you still have to go through the fire.
Yes. Yeah. It's just a matter of making sure that, if there's a fire, that you can go through it without fear of getting burnt. And the same being in water. We didn't see the plane go down in the sea there before because it somehow didn't work on that particular slide, but where you're going to rescue or help people that have gone down in a plane crash that's, say, gone into the water, you need to have no fear of drowning. Same with in fires, like we've seen sweep through many parts of the world, particularly, you know, over in Hawaii recently. You can't have, you know, fear of fire, but it's a matter of being able to go in there and help those people that have, you know, may be able to be shown where to go for extra protection. And, you know, it's the same with any of those things. You know, if you're going into the water to help someone who's, you know, drowning, you can't have a fear of sharks. You know, they're not going to attack you, but it's a natural instinct to think, well, you know, there's those big fish out there somewhere. Yes.
Can you speak up, Tanya? Sorry.
Now, when you go to these situations, you often see things that may be on the news when are published. Like, for instance, a laser coming from a device from the aircraft burning the land below, causing fires. That's it.
So the question is around observing phenomena that may be occurring from the other side.
But if you see something dangerous, maybe you see someone getting attacked, you see the perpetrator, same phenomenon.
Yeah.
One of those new laser equipped planes from America setting fire to Hawaii.
Usually it's just, in my experience, it's just after there to help those that are in need. It's a, you know, just a call that people have. You know, you're very alone in the situations. Quite often you might be, you know, cordoned off by wild animals, or, you know, the bushfires coming towards you, and, you know, it can be all sorts of situations. You can be drowning in the oceans. It's all of various, you know, scenarios that, you know, may happen and affect us. But, you know, the big thing on the other side is not having that fear for anything. Like if a bull's charging towards you, it can't affect you. It might affect the person you're trying to help. Yeah.
Well, I think the main point is that we are first responders. We're not worried about why it happened, but we are there to help those who are suffering, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's the first priority.
Yeah, no matter who it is, there's no discrimination as to who you're going to help and who you're not. It's
I think, you know, it's nice to think what might be going through people's minds. The bottom line is that at that time, what tragedy was happening, and people in Lightworkers and whoever does it, I really sometimes a better time maybe to help during that process. And just notice all of that stuff that happens, I think, if possible to. I don't know whether it matters about, I don't know, I just think that it's what the truth, I suppose, is of what is going on. And that, like what I say, people go to get rid of us and all sorts of things. I think it's interesting, it's fascinating. But it is true. It does come on.
Aparna has a last comment. She just wanted to clarify. She was asking that Tibetans believe it takes 49 days to pass over completely. And in India, we have ceremonies on the 3rd day, 11th day, every month for 1 year. So I guess each system has their own beliefs. Any comments on how long it takes to pass, and why do people think they're still alive?
Well, people think they're still alive because they are, you know.
Only the physical body's gone.
I've worked with lots of people that think that, you know, when you die, and that's the end of you. You know, you're absolutely stupid to think that there's any possible afterlife, but they all find out in due course.
Well, the great thing is, if there's nothing, then you won't know about it because you won't be conscious. So you're a winner both ways, because if you're awake anyway, so no problem. It's like taking a bob each way, and you're a winner.
There is another question from Dee. They say, have you experienced helping people experiencing the event in a different time, like in the past or future?
No.
No. Okay. How can we help in the past or future?
Well, it's to do with time on the other side, I guess. In this dimension versus another dimension. Okay. One June.
Now, back to the sleep by 10 o'clock. I was going to make the comment that you also have to be in good health, like, when you go to sleep, you're going to be staying asleep, not getting up every hour to get toddle off to the toilet or something. Yeah. So you need to be in good sound health as well.
Yeah, well, I guess you do. I certainly don't wake up and go to the loo in the night, but yeah, some people do. But that doesn't stop them rejoining the group and going back when they go back to bed if they go to sleep.
That would be a great situation if you were in the because some things you'll be doing that'll be short term, but if you're doing something like the earthquake and that sort of thing, going to be going all night anyway.
Well, people that may be crushed under an earthquake and maybe in an air gap where they can survive, but they've got to be rescued. Generally, people don't know they're there. The tracker dogs and things that have helped people get there. So your job is to comfort them and give them, some solace while they're trying to be found. It doesn't always happen. They may end up dying after, in Turkey, there was people there rescued 21 days later. But, you wonder, well, how would you survive if nothing to drink or eat for 21 days?
Okay.
I'd be struggling.
Okay, Tanya, last from here, and then we'll come to you, Lara May, last from online.
So I will try to go to the 10 p.m. and work on myself. Is there like a specific way I should be doing that?
No, it's just sort of volunteering yourself to be of service. But the first thing you've got to make sure that you can cope with is no fear of fire. So if you're in Hawaii or somewhere where the fires were, or whichever countries they seem to be just about ongoing, that you can go and be with people in the fire and not feel as though you're going to get burnt. Where a plane crashes in the sea, you got to feel as though you can go down and be with those people to help them. They might not be dead yet if the plane has crashed, but may over time. So there's no fear of, sharks or drowning or anything like that. Yes. Well, the big thing is having, good understanding of theosophical principles and how they work. And the biggest thing a lot of people, say to you, I thought I was dead, but I can't be. But yet they are, but they know they're still alive because there's more to, their body than their physical body. They don't realise that they've got an astral, a mental, and a causal body that can go on living, and they gradually, leave this one behind as they move on. Sorry, I didn't hear.
Did you offer the services first to help others, or then Theosophy first?
Well, I joined the Theosophical Society when I was about 12, so I was sort of brought up with the TS principles. And yeah, it's just
come regularly
sort of
to our
second nature.
classes, Tanya. Come regularly and we'll teach you all. That's what we do. Yeah. Okay. One last question, you comment, Lara May, and then we'll finish up.
Maureen
Yeah,
and-
it's a quick one. I'm glad you brought up about the different bodies. That was a really good point. So my question then is like how much of the diva knows about the light workers' personalities and be able to help. For example, if I do have a fear, I have a fear of fish. So if someone was drowning, there's no point putting me with that person. So wouldn't is the diva aware of that sort of like things like that or not? And that's why it has to be general, that a blanket, don't have a fear of anything.
No, there are, certain people that are, can work better in certain areas. And so, if there was a plane gone down in the sea and you had a fear of drowning, a fear of sharks, you certainly wouldn't be given the job of, helping them there. But it's, not everyone's perfect in all situations. Like I mentioned before, some people hate spiders and snakes and, all sorts of different things. Well, you're not going to be put in those situations if you are. It just means your services aren't able to be used in every situation.
Okay, Maureen.
Oh, hello, Brian. It's Maureen from the far north, even though
Yes.
on the screen says Jane. I'm asking you a question. It's nothing to do with the topic. I'm just wondering, how is Helen? Because I haven't seen her for quite a few years.
She's in the room.
Oh, I thought she would probably be not far away. Well, nice to see you both after all these years.
Likewise,
That's
Maureen.
all. Yep,
Mm.
that's all.
After the meeting. There is one last question from D. He asked, what happens when people accept they have left and they have finished their physical life? Do you hand them over to a higher being?
Well, you can, but your job is to. We saw in the image before where there's people going up through to the light, and it's just a matter of, when people are ready to go and they understand where they are, you can direct them on the onward path. It's really like a magnet that pulls you in a certain direction.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Fantastic. And is there anything slide-wise, Sishi, you're going to bring up? Yeah, I'm just waiting for you. Okay, all right. So I'd like to thank you, Brian, for sharing your knowledge and wisdom for invisible helpers and light workers on the other side. It's good to see you and Helen in the lodge. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon.